Hello, this is Dan Nowman Niswander, and this is a Nowman self-care segment for contemplation, meditation, whatever words you are comfortable with. And it's important that the focus of this contemplation is at least a couple of things, probably more, that reveal themselves as the present moment goes forward. But to start, because the usual many times our minds are very busy thinking, which is a good thing. But at the same time, if our thoughts are scattered all over the place, we still need to have some sense of clarity and focus and not be distracted by what is really most important. And the other reason for doing this particular contemplation here and now is because of the the need for, shall I say, massive focus on the subject of morality. And not to get too cosmic sounding, but it is based on why are we here? What's the purpose? What's what are the top priorities? So as I do this contemplation session for self-care, we're also better prepared as we go out into the world to help others. So that being said, let's begin. Sometimes wherever you are, as you can hear, I'm in the city and I'm not in nature. So there may be limitations on what can be done to have absolute quietness. Sometimes it is better to do these kinds of things at night. It depends, but you can be contemplative anywhere, even when you're driving down the freeway or you're working out. You don't have to just be in nature or be ready to go to sleep at night when it tends to be quieter. It's a kind of state of mind. I guess that's the maybe the easiest way I know how to describe what I'm talking about. So, in quieting down those thoughts that may be distracting us and they're all over the place, depending on what's been happening in our own personal lives or in the world as a whole that we connect with through our media, sometimes it's best to just stop for a moment, just focus on the idea that it is here and it is now. The universe exists. We know that it exists, or whatever the word is you want to use. Some people might use the word God. I choose the word universe. And each of us are essential to the completeness of the universe. Start by considering this for a moment. Now, we are one aspect, essential to the completeness of the universe, which does exist. Each and every one Everything living being that we are aware of is essential to the completeness that is the universe. The Earth planet is actually a very small part of it, but it is part of it. Our experiences may seem to be a very small part of it, but we are part of it. And that in itself is extraordinary. Going forward, life is eternal. It may not seem that way, but things are not the way they seem to be in this human experience, as we have seen and we continue to see over and over and over again. For some reason, we are conscious of what we would call a human experience, but it's really not what it appears to be, especially when we contemplate the idea that the universe is something we can't even really understand. It's we just know that it's something like that exists, or, and we use the word universe to describe it, and it is vast beyond anything human beings can seem to fathom. Herein lies our basic top priority: why we are here, and where we would be going from here, so to speak. As I've touched on many times in my personal conversations with people over the years, and in the original Now Man Self Care's Contemplation, this is all eternal as well, or eternity. So you could say we are essential to the completeness of eternity, as well as the completeness of the universe. Likewise, we are all essential to the completeness of infinity. And all of this has to be intelligence. So we are essential in the sense that we are actually all intelligence too. Now, one could say, looking at the human experience, that makes no sense. Again, it makes sense to, I can speak as I feel, I'm not trying to preach, but as I see it, it makes sense when in the human experience, things are not the way they seem or appear to be. So, what is morality? What does that mean in this experience? What does it mean as essential to what the universe is? That is something to contemplate. I'll stop for a moment of silence for us to contemplate this. How does morality fit in? How is it essential in the existence of the entire universe? Consider this. Going forward, we may see the appearance of all kinds of insanity and craziness in our world, in our personal lives. We may say, where is the intelligence in that? How is that in any way, shape, or form eternal or part of the infinite universe? When it's an illusion about something, but it's still an illusion. That something, the word I use is consciousness. It is so much more than just saying to oneself, I exist. And you can study many people who talked about consciousness, some very well known, others not so well known. One of the most well known, let's say, is Carl Jung. There are others I've studied that not famous or popular at all. Doesn't require fame to be aware, to be someone who has information that can be helpful or can be teachable, let alone anything else. Fame, likewise, is an illusion. It is what it is. It's something, but when emphasis is put on that as a primary source or only source, then for any kind of useful information that's relevant to expanding our awareness of who we are, what we are, the universe, etc., then it's a limitation. It's not what it appears to be. Consider this for a moment. It is important to consider morality. Even through this human experience, we should not be condoning war. We should not be condoning behavior that allows extremes, such as inequality of any kind, economic inequality, where you have, let's say, 0.01% of your population owning, controlling the vast majority, maybe even 90% plus of the income and the wealth that is generated through the system, through the economic system. It is not sustainable, for one thing. It isn't reality when understanding all of this in the context of the universe, in the context of infinity, eternity, let alone intelligence. A conscious awakening, a paradigm shift, if you will, in understanding is inevitable. Even in the human experience, one has to understand, even though it's not what it appears to be, it's something that has to be addressed. It is something that necessitates this contemplation, this self care. How do we really treat one another? A very well known teacher by the name of Jesus said, "You should love your neighbor as yourself." It makes sense, whether you consider yourself a religious person or not. That makes sense. But so does a soundbite, which I call it, like people over profits. That likewise makes sense. Consider this for a moment. It's very fundamental sometimes to understand these kinds of things, like how to treat each each other with respect, how to understand very profound truths through simple, fundamental ideas, and to contemplate it. And as you contemplate it, contemplate how to put it into action in your life. It is essential, and it makes sense that it is part of our reason for being here, the human experience. Why is this happening? Or why does it appear to be happening? What do we understand or learn from this? How does it fit in the context of a much bigger picture that is eternal and infinite, universal, intelligent? Consider this. When you're listening to this, you might be winding down your day, getting ready to go to sleep. You might want something to listen to that is comforting or gives you some kind of alternative way of looking at the world that you're living in, that gives you some kind of hope, that is uplifting, encourages a paradigm shift of some kind within yourself or a greater one within society. It may be for the purpose of self care, which is certainly always a part of our day to day routines, especially in times of crises. When there are crises, let's say, that affect every one of us, we are at a point in the so called human history where there is global crisis, things happening, such as a pandemic that seems to affect each and every person's life, all 7 billion people, all of us. Becomes imperative to have this kind of contemplation, this kind of self care. Balance is important. It is important. And everyone would hopefully feel that's essential to this human experience. Consider this. Morality. What are priorities? What do you support? What do you condone? No matter what it is that you would do in your day to day life, how you treat others, what kind of conversations do you have? How do you spend your time? How do you vote when there are elections going on? How do you view and discern information? How do you self educate? What are you doing? Does it include morality in the genuine sense? Does it include loving your neighbor as yourself? Treat others as you want to be treated. Love one another. Peace. Now, Consider this. If you are in a comfortable spot right now and you're relaxed and still awake and listening, consider how you go forward, looking at the world around you, your personal experience here and now. What is top priority? What is real morality in action? It's essential to ask oneself this kind of a question, especially here and now. That is the moment we are currently experiencing. Continue the self care. In the present moment, going forward, always.